It's time for a devotion from history. Can you imagine traveling all day only to arrive at your hotel and find out that it is so full that they ask you to share a room with a stranger? That's exactly what happened to 19-year-old John Nicholson in 1898 when he arrived at the Central Hotel in Boscobel, Wisconsin. They asked him to share room 19 with Samuel Hill. Well, when Nicholson got to the room and got ready for bed, he asked his roommate if he would mind keeping the light on for a few minutes, as he was accustomed to reading the scriptures before he went to bed. At that point, Mr. Hill jumped out of bed and said, "I'm a Christian too. Why don't you read them out loud?" Well, it so happened that Nicholson and Hill stayed up until 2 o'clock in the morning discussing their experiences and what they went through as traveling Christian salesmen. They decided that it would be a good idea to form an organization with other Christian men who were also traveling quite often, and they called for a meeting of anyone who was interested in joining this organization. That meeting took place on July 1st of 1899, and it was attended by 3 men: Nicholson, Hill, and fellow friend William Knight. Nevertheless, they decided to go ahead with their plans to form this organization, and they decided that they would name themselves after an Old Testament character who was willing to do whatever God had asked of him. So they took the name the Gideons. Well, because all of the early Gideons were traveling salesmen, they discussed what they could do to be witnesses in the hotels in which they stayed. And somebody came up with the idea that perhaps they could leave a Bible in each room of the hotel that they stayed in. So they voted on it and said, "Why not? Let's try it." And in 1908, they distributed Bibles to their first hotel in every room in the Iron Mountain Inn of Montana. Now, since that time, the Gideons have distributed about 800 million Bibles in hotel rooms across the world in 170 countries. I know that I've sure taken advantage of using a Gideon Bible when I'm in a hotel. History and eternity will only begin to show what 2 men who met by accident in a hotel room in Wisconsin could accomplish when they decided to dream big things along with God. There are no accidental meetings for Christians who are working in God's plan. Remember that today as you go around meeting some people. Who knows what kind of history you might make. I'll see you tomorrow on Devotions from History.